Good afternoon, and welcome to the 2020 NAEMT General Membership Meeting. It is now my pleasure to welcome our president, Mr. Matt Zavodsky.
Welcome members and guests to the 2020 NAEMT General Membership Meeting. This is the first time in our association's 45-year history that we are not holding an in-person annual meeting. Of course, back in 1975, when NAEMT was first established, we were decades away from the technology that would allow us to meet virtually. But today, with our technology to help us, we can meet to share with you the body of work that our association, through you, our incredible members, have achieved this year. To all of our members across the United States and territories, and in 128 other countries, thank you for your membership and for participating in our very first virtual annual meeting. 2020 is perhaps the single most significant year in the entire history of the EMS profession. As the coronavirus pandemic unfolded, our country and the world bore witness to the remarkable dedication, commitment to service, and courage of EMS practitioners. Our EMS workforce have endured great challenges and made great sacrifices in the care of their patients. Communities owe a great debt of gratitude to paramedics, EMTs, and other pre-hospital providers who are serving on the front lines of the COVID-19 response. On behalf of the NAEMT Board of Directors, I am humbled and honored to recognize the incredible courage and selflessness of EMS practitioners. As our communities and nations ground to a halt in March, EMS went into action. Day and night in our cities and towns, EMS practitioners answered calls for help and came to the aid of sick, worried, and the critically ill. In the hotspots, paramedics and EMTs faced a deluge of COVID-19 patients. The virus set off a scramble for protective equipment, strained emergency medical systems, and compromised our ability to keep ourselves, our families, and our colleagues safe. In other places, the expected surge never came. Instead, the opposite occurred, an eerie drop in 911 calls, leaving EMS budgets decimated and the path to financial recovery uncertain. COVID-19 is a crisis of massive scope, the full effects of which are still being learned. The clinical and economic scope of the crisis has brought about unprecedented changes in our society and in healthcare. For EMS, there have been tremendous achievements, as well as new challenges and agonizing losses. We have lost many of our colleagues to the coronavirus. Many paramedics and EMTs in the U.S. have died to date in the line of duty during the pandemic. Our profession must honor and remember their sacrifice. We owe it to them to do everything in our power to make sure that communities and elected officials recognize their sacrifice and provide EMS with the resources needed to protect our workforce. We know and accept the risks of our chosen profession related to on-scene violence, emergency vehicle crashes, and being struck by vehicles while treating patients at scenes. However, death from an unseen killer, such as a virus, has not been a serious consideration since HIV in the 1980s. In May, the National EMS Memorial Service was held virtually to recognize and honor the sacrifices of our colleagues who died in the line of duty in 2019. To pay tribute to those brave paramedics and EMTs who, this year, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their patients. Jana Williams and Eric Johnson from the National EMS Memorial Service will lead us in a prayer for our fallen heroes.
Thank you, Matt. As you begin your annual meeting, please join me in reflection. I invite you to quiet your minds, open your hearts, and virtually clasp hands across the miles as we ask for renewal and fidelity to continue in service to others. I ask for each of you comfort and peace, especially to those weary from service, and the same for your families. With all that 2020 has asked EMS to face, especially the global pandemic, I maintain that there has never been a more defining time to recognize the commitment, service, and sacrifice of those in EMS as there is right now. Your valor and tenacity commands deep respect. I ask for each of you reinvigoration and energy as you call to mind your very first EMS call, and for strength and hope to carry you through to your last. As we now purposely pause to honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice, giving their lives in the line of duty, and that we not only remember them, but that we also move forward with a commitment to apply any lessons learned so that their lives were not lost in vain. Then finally, please build us back up to be ready again for our noble mission of safeguarding the health, safety, and well-being of our communities and those we serve. To whom we pray, amen.
We now pause in honor of all EMS providers who have given their lives in the line of duty. In 2020, we continue to lose EMS providers in the line of duty, not just from the unique dangers of the profession, but particularly from the unprecedented risks of COVID-19. We are currently vetting over 60 additional nominees for honor thus far this year, almost 50 of which are related to COVID-19. We pay respect to these fallen providers and appreciate your support so we may continue to provide them the honor they so richly deserve. Please join us for the National EMS Weekend of Honor in Washington, D.C., May 14 to 16, 2021.
Thank you, Jana and Eric. These EMS heroes will never be forgotten. Their sacrifice inspires us to make our EMS profession better and safer for our practitioners and for the patients we serve. In accordance with our bylaws, the NAEMT president provides an annual report on the achievements of our association at the general membership meeting. I am proud to share with you the highlights of our association's achievements so far this year. In January, we began implementing our 2020 plan, the third and final year of our 2018 through 2020 strategic plan. By February, we were receiving reports from our education partners in other countries about the spread of coronavirus, and by early March, we realized that the US was going to be seriously affected. By mid-March, we set aside our 2020 plans to focus almost exclusively on helping our EMS workforce secure the resources needed to serve on the front lines of the war against the pandemic. Our ultimate goal has been to ensure EMS is receiving the assistance, equipment, training, and support needed to help our patients and our communities, and most importantly, to protect ourselves, our families, and our colleagues. We have and continue to use every means possible to help our federal leaders understand what EMS needs to fight the pandemic while continuing to meet the daily needs of our patients. We wrote multiple letters to congressional leaders in both the House and the Senate, and to the Secretaries of Health and Human Services and Homeland Security, the FEMA and CMS administrators, and the President of the United States to bring attention to the lack of resources available to EMS agencies to battle the pandemic. We conducted 6 advocacy campaigns to members of Congress calling for top priority for EMS for personal protective equipment and testing, hazard pay for the EMS workforce, direct relief for EMS agencies overwhelmed with the unbudgeted expenses associated with the pandemic, and reimbursement for transport to alternate destinations, as well as treatment in place. Thanks to you, over 32,000 emails were sent to Congress from NAEMT members and supporters, including supporters from the general public, using NAEMT's online legislative service. This has been by far the greatest level of participation in our association's history. Working in collaboration with other national organizations, we did achieve some notable wins. In April, the CDC elevated first responders to a higher level priority for PPE and for COVID-19 testing. In addition, CMS began reimbursing ground ambulance providers for transporting patients to alternate destinations. This enables EMS to help conserve hospital capacity for the sickest patients. These were important advances, but much more is needed. At the height of the COVID-19 outbreaks, the bravery and heroism of EMS practitioners was covered in the media like never before. NAEMT, the International Association of Fire Chiefs, and the American Ambulance Association all had interviews with top national media. Paramedics were featured on the cover of Time magazine's Heroes of the Front Lines. Major media outlets around the nation featured EMS practitioners in full PPE, risking their own health to come to the aid of a sick and fearful population. Despite numerous news stories featuring EMS bravery, heroism, and service to the community, EMS was left out of direct relief from the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, the CARES Act for short. In response, NAEMT issued a national press release to draw attention to the urgent need for PPE and other resources. In the release, we called on our federal leaders in Congress and in the White House to address this oversight as soon as possible, noting that EMS is at a breaking point and we need our government support. We have continued our advocacy nonstop since March. Currently, we are actively advocating for reimbursement for providing treatment in place, or TIP, during the public health emergency and beyond. Treatment in place is a vital public service by EMS and a crucial part of the effort to control the pandemic and ensure that hospitals have the capacity to care for the critically ill. We continue to advocate for hazard pay, higher priority on the supply chain for PPE and testing, and financial relief through disaster grants. And as we were successful in securing funding for the Support and Improving Rural EMS Needs, or the Siren Law for 2020, we continue to urge Congress to fund this EMS grant program at a higher level in 2021. In addition to advocating on behalf of EMS, NAEMT also worked to assist our members with the clinical, operational, and financial aspects of their pandemic response. In March, NAEMT created a COVID-19 Resource Center where guidance being received from the CDC, NHTSA's Office of EMS, FEMA, and other federal agencies was being posted almost in real time. The center also has state and agency level protocols and resources posted, the latest information on funding resources, and offers of donations and discounts to EMS agencies and practitioners. NAEMT hosted a series of webinars led by EMS leaders and other experts and attended by thousands of members and others on topics ranging from practices in triage and transport during COVID-19, pandemic safety protocols using PPE and disinfectants, coping with the stress and anxiety and utilization of crew resource management concepts to improve your pandemic response. NAEMT members accessed these free webinars and received CAPC continuing education credit. We worked with leading companies including Hilton and Amazon to bring our new member benefits, including free hotel rooms for those responding to the pandemic and who needed a safe place to isolate, as well as access to a worldwide supply of personal protective equipment. In April, we conducted a national survey of EMS agency leaders to understand the impact of COVID-19 on EMS agencies and personnel. 891 agency leaders from 49 states, Puerto Rico, and the District of Columbia responded to the survey. The results indicated that EMS agencies were experiencing deep distress, with many in jeopardy of closing. These results were distributed to all members of Congress, federal agency leaders, and all national and state EMS associations. State and federal stakeholders often criticize national EMS associations for the lack of alignment around key legislative initiatives. The needs of practitioners in managing the pandemic are relatively universal, regardless of the type of uniform we wear. Alignment of the major national EMS associations has never been better. NAEMT, the American Ambulance Association, the International Association of Fire Chiefs, and the International Association of Firefighters, along with other organizations, are collaborating on major legislative initiatives that benefit all EMS practitioners. The associations are in very regular, almost weekly, and sometimes daily communications with volunteer leadership and executive and government affairs staff to achieve our mutual goals. With the assistance and engagement of our members and supporters, NAEMT will continue to vigorously advocate for the EMS profession and our patients. We want to once again thank all of those who continue to help keep EMS at the forefront of mitigating the current pandemic and keep us ready to meet any future challenges to the safety of our country. Turning for a moment to EMS education, we know that the pandemic hit our educational institutions extremely hard. Many members of the EMS education community are also practicing paramedics, EMTs, physicians, or nurses who have been serving on the front lines of this global crisis. The public health emergency forced most EMS training centers to close. Many of these centers are community colleges and universities that suspended courses or moved to completely online. This resulted in slowing the pipeline of new EMTs and paramedics down to a trickle in many areas and redirecting EMS practitioners to online education vendors and bypassing local providers. So not only are EMS agencies struggling to survive, but so too are EMS schools struggling. On March 25th, to support our training centers and faculty, NAEMT education leaders published the first in a series of pandemic guidelines for our courses. These guidelines provide specific direction to our faculty regarding how to present didactic content virtually, how to conduct patient simulations and skills practice in a safe environment for students, and options for virtual test assessments and instructor monitoring. Subsequent guidelines addressed extensions for instructor requirements and provider course recognition. We also held 2 webinars for our faculty to offer best practices and suggestions for conducting courses virtually. Many of our training centers and faculty have found cost-effective approaches to delivering EMS education in both high and low fidelity environments. We have seen tremendous innovation by instructors in the field that is now being replicated by training centers across the globe. They have been adapted by NAEMT for a virtual environment using virtual breakout rooms to build and reinforce students' critical thinking skills, incorporating safeguards into traditional classroom, including the use of masks, gloves, and face shields when conducting socially distanced skills practice and patient simulations, and using online tools to assist with proctoring exams. Thank you to our faculty for their outstanding efforts. Amidst the pandemic, NAEMT faculty, authors, and medical directors have continued to work to provide our workforce with the very best continuing education available. Since January, even with all of the other things going on, we've been able to publish the 3rd edition of AMLS, the textbook used for this course published last December, the instructor toolkit, and new course manual published in April. We published 8 optional lessons for the PHTLS 9th edition course to give students a deeper dive into complex trauma topics. Published a new Tech Leo course for our colleagues in the public safety sector to help them respond in a tactical emergency unit until EMS is on scene. We completed development of the 4th edition of the Pediatric Emergency Care course, including a new course manual. This course is now in production and will be published in early 2021. We completed development of the new Critical Care Test Prep course to help paramedics prepare to take the IBSC Critical Care or Flight Paramedic Certification exam. We completed development of the first 2 community paramedic courses to help paramedics prepare to take the IBSC Community Paramedicine Certification. We completed development of the new Tech Refresher course, also held our first AMLS clinical webinar on recognizing pre-hospital shock, with 2 more scheduled for the end of September and October. A few other highlights to mention. In January, we launched a new EMS Corporate Engagement Council to provide a forum for for those who supply the EMS industry with products and services and those who provide EMS care to discuss key issues impacting the industry and understand their implications. 11 national and international EMS companies are participating. The Council has been instrumental in helping align our industry around the key issues that impact agencies, practitioners, and our patients. In May, we chose to use this year's EMS Week as a time to honor our nation's EMS practitioners, calling attention to their heroism during this very challenging time for our nation and raising public awareness about the care that the EMS workforce provides and the difficulties of providing quality care with limited financial resources. In June, when civil unrest hit many of our cities, our board took note and considered what our association could do to help build an EMS workforce that reflects the local communities we serve. We strongly believe that diversity strengthens our communities, our nation, and the world. The NAEMT board unanimously voted to establish a new scholarship to promote EMS workforce diversity. The new scholarship will be in addition to NAEMT's current needs-based scholarship program for members. We know that the pandemic has placed a financial strain on EMS agencies across the country. Many of our agencies are struggling just to stay afloat. The pandemic has impacted all types of business activity in every community in our country and has impacted NAEMT operations as well. Some of our revenues are much lower than we expected when we created our 2020 budget back in November of 2019. However, our treasurer, Terry David, supported by NAEMT's Finance Committee and our staff, have done an incredible job of managing our expenses so that we can confidently say that NAEMT will be able to weather the storm until it clears, hopefully in 2021. But I am happy to report a very positive development this year. NAEMT's membership grew more this year than ever before in our history. Our full NAEMT membership grew by a whopping 34%. As of the end of August, NAEMT had 16,968 full members. Now more than ever, paramedics and EMTs see the value of NAEMT membership, and we are so very grateful for our new and current members. This report is truly just the top highlights of our achievements so far this year. There is so much more, and you can read about these and other NAEMT activities through the quarterly NAEMT news, the monthly NAEMT Pulse, the quarterly faculty update on our website, and through the emails that we send you, hopefully not too many. All of these activities are made possible through our incredible members. Thank you to our NAEMT members, each and every one of you, for your dedication to our profession, to your community, and to your family, and for your trust and faith in NAEMT. We are truly honored to serve you. It seems that the informal slogan for our pandemic response has been, "We are all in this together." That statement has truly been the hallmark of our NAEMT board this year. Many of our board members have been and continue to serve in some of the hottest COVID-19 hotspots in our country. With this additional burden, they have still remained actively engaged in NAEMT, dedicating their time and expertise to our profession and our association. I am truly blessed to work with all of them. Here are your 2020 NAEMT Board of Directors. Bruce Evans, President-elect. Terry David, Treasurer. Troy Tuke, Secretary. Dennis Rowe, Immediate Past President. Robert Lukritz, Region 1 Director. Brian Nelson, Region 1 Director. Susan Bailey, Region 2 Director. William Tatum, Region 2 Director. Jason Scheiderer, Region 3 Director. Deborah Von Segern, Region 3 Director. William Justice, Region 4 Director. Karen Larson, Region 4 Director. Jonathan Washko, At-Large Director. Chris Way, At-Large Director, and our Medical Director, Dr. Craig Manifold. Thank you all very much for your dedication and commitment. While NAEMT is a forward-focused association, we never forget how we have grown over the years and the leaders who led us through the challenges along the way. We are very grateful for the leadership provided to NAEMT by our past presidents. Thank you very much for your service. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to ask NAEMT Treasurer Terry David to recognize our corporate partners.
NAEMT's corporate partners are just that, our partners. They support our mission and the programs that represent and serve the EMS profession. On behalf of all members of NAEMT, please accept our appreciation and gratitude. It is my pleasure to present NAEMT's 2020 corporate partners. Our elite partners, Columbia Southern University, EMS World, FirstNet, built with AT&T. Premier partners, iSimulate, GYMS, the Public Safety Group of Jones and Bartlett Learning, Resuscitation Quality Improvement. Our diamond partners, Zoll. Our platinum partners, Journal of Special Operations Medicine and Stryker. Gold partners include Braun Industries, H&H Medical Corporation, and OnStar. Silver partners, American College of Emergency Physicians, Change Healthcare, CMNF Group Incorporated, ESO, Life Assist, Paramedic Safety, McKinnison, Medline Industries, Mortan Incorporated, the Morgan Lens, NPP Gov, the National Purchasing Partners Government, Real DX, and Sovereign Laboratories. Our bronze partners include Ninth Brain, Nonan Medical, ProMed Network, Skedco, and Special Operations Medical Association, SOMA. Our annual partners, 511 Tactical, Android Medical, Boundtree, the Coalition Against Bigger Trucks, Digitech, FirstNet Authority, GAWMARD, the International Board of Specialty Certification, IBSC, the International Police Mountain Bike Association, Logis Solutions, Luna, the Mayo Clinic, Nasco, the National EMS Museum, North American Rescue, Page, Wolfberg and Worth, Panicky, Pulsera, Sam Medical, Stimulades, Nasco Healthcare, the Solutions Group, the Critical Care Pocket Guide, the University of Chicago Professional Education, and Zanen Health. We want to thank all of our sponsors and thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Terry. Our accomplishments would not be possible without the active engagement of our committees. NAEMT committee members spend many hours on projects and initiatives. We have posted a PowerPoint presentation on our website that highlights all of our committee activities to date. I hope members have taken the opportunity to sign up for and attend NAEMT's September committee meetings, which are open to all members. Our committees want to receive input and feedback from our members on the important issues which the committees are addressing. It is my pleasure to present the 2020 NAEMT committees and their chairs. The Advocacy Committee, chaired by Troy Tuke. Advanced Medical Life Support Committee, chaired by Jeff Meserole. Candidacy and Elections Committee, chaired by Dennis Willem. Education Committee, chaired by Rick Ellis. EMS Transformation Committee, chaired by Matt Savatsky. EMS Disaster Preparedness Committee, chaired by Terry David. EMS Workforce Committee, chaired by Sean Britton. Emergency Pediatric Care Committee, chaired by Shannon Watson. European Regional Education Committee, chaired by Patrick Wick. Finance Committee, chaired by Terry David. Latin American Regional Education Committee, chaired by Elkin Fuentes. Leadership Development Committee, chaired by Dennis Rowe. Membership Committee, chaired by Chris Way. Military Relations Committee, chaired by Dr. Craig Manifold. The NAEMT EMS Political Action Committee Steering Committee, chaired by Bruce Evans. Pre-Hospital Trauma Committee, chaired by Dennis Rowe. I also wish to recognize those members who serve as coordinators within their states and regions and internationally to support our programs. Our network of state, provincial, regional, and national education coordinators in the United States and in countries around the world. Thank you. Our network of state-level advocacy coordinators. These members are our grassroots advocacy powerhouse. Thank you. And our network of membership coordinators working to recruit, retain, and engage our members. Great work. Now I would like to recognize and thank the Board of Trustees of the NAEMT Foundation. The NAEMT Foundation is a separate, nonprofit organization. Its mission is to support a better future for EMS. The NAEMT Foundation awards scholarships to individuals interested in pursuing careers in EMS. Don Lundy, President. Corey Richter, Vice President. Connie Meyer, Secretary. Terry David, Treasurer. Rod Barrett, Trustee. Rick Ellis, Trustee. Fergus Loffridge, Trustee. Scott Mayton, Trustee. And Jason Schreiderer, also a trustee. We know that state legislation and regulation can have a profound impact on EMS agencies and practitioners. NAEMT is proud of our long-standing relationship with state EMS associations and other EMS organizations affiliated with NAEMT. Representatives of these organizations comprise NAEMT's Affiliate Advisory Council. NAEMT Director Susan Bailey serves as our council chair. Thank you, council members, for your support of NAEMT and for sharing your insights and perspectives on important EMS issues. Now I would like to recognize a very special friend who will be retiring from the board at the end of the year. Dennis Rowe has served our association in so many positions over the years. He has served on most of NAEMT's committees and has served as chair of many of them. As a young man, Dennis was introduced to NAEMT by Dr. Norman McSwain, NAEMT's first medical director and creator of PHTLS. He worked with Dr. McSwain for many years on the PHTLS committee, then became more involved in NAEMT membership and advocacy activities through service on the board as a director, treasurer, president-elect, and then president in 2017-2018. Dennis is a world-class ambassador for NAEMT and has worked tirelessly for decades to build our association and its education programs. He led our PHTLS program after the passing of Dr. McSwain to ensure that Norma's legacy in pre-hospital trauma education would endure. He has always and continues to live by Norman's motto of, "What have you done for the good of mankind today?" And he demonstrates his belief in the honor of service in his actions and words. Dennis has a charming and self-effacing manner, but don't let that fool you. He is a master strategist who has helped steer our association to success for many years. Although Dennis will be retiring from the board after a stellar performance, he will not be retiring from NAEMT. He will continue to serve our profession and association in many capacities. On behalf of NAEMT's global membership, I'd like to thank Dennis for his service on the NAEMT board.
Matt, thank you so very much. Fellow board members, officers, you have made the dream of a 21-year-old brand new paramedic come true. The time I have spent recently on the board and as an officer and president of the association was the only things I could dream about in 1978 when I went to the first NAEMT board meeting at Kent State as a representative from Tennessee. I will tell you that this has been a wonderful time, and I also will express to each and everyone who's listening, there's about to be an election in this country, and with that election, a president will be chosen in the future. With that, And no, it's not the President of the United States. It's the NAEMT officers that will be chosen and board members. I strongly encourage you to be thoughtful and to select the right person for these offices. Again, thank you for this opportunity to serve the membership and the opportunity to participate in the workings of the National Association of EMTs. And I will be continuing to support as a member for as long as I can. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. It is now my pleasure to introduce Bruce Evans, NAEMT's President-elect. Bruce will assume the position of NAEMT President on January 1st. Bruce comes to the position very prepared with a long track record of experience as a paramedic, EMS chief, and EMS instructor. Bruce has been very involved in NAEMT activities for over 20 years, having served on various committees and as committee chair, and as the director and secretary on the NAEMT board. Bruce currently serves as the fire chief for the Upper Pine River Fire Protection District located in Bayfield, Colorado. He retired as the EMS chief for the North Las Vegas, Nevada Fire Department after serving 27 years in the Southern Nevada's fire and EMS system. Bruce is an adjunct faculty member of the National Fire Academy in EMS, Incident Management, and Terrorism training programs, and is an NAEMT instructor for several courses. He is the recipient of the prestigious 2010 James O. Page EMS Achievement Award. He has co-authored texts on EMS management, crew resource management, and has written a text on quality improvement. Bruce will now provide his thoughts on NAEMT and his upcoming role as our association's president.
Welcome to our members here in the United States. Hola for our members in Latin America. And konnichiwa for our partners over at the Japanese Paramedic Association and many other NAEMT members around the globe. It's an honor to be moving into the role as your president. I want to take a few minutes to tell you where I came from and how I got there, and then I want to tell you where I want to take the organization. I have to go back to Iowa. It was a field of dreams. As a kid growing up in a middle-class neighborhood with a stepfather and family with roots in the fire and emergency services, service seemed like a way of life. I guess you have to say that EMS is kind of the family business. My mother was an EMT intermediate at West Des Moines EMS. My stepfather, a medic in the Iowa National Guard. He was also our service director. And as I graduated high school, he suggested that maybe I should take an EMT class in Mary Greeley Medical Center in Ames, Iowa, where I was going to college. He said you'd have a summer job when you came back. If it wasn't for good mentors at Mary Greeley like Lee Thomas, Steve Mercer, Jerry Johnston, and the late Larry Rossman, I wouldn't have made it. The day after my national registry was verified, I found myself on an ambulance based out of a police department in West Des Moines, Iowa. During the day, the ambulance was actually driven by the dog catcher. Consistently nationally registered now for over 37 years, I loved it. That summer, I got the privilege of attending an EMT intermediate class that was taught by the legendary Mike Smith out of Mercy's Training Center in Des Moines. After being certified as an EMT intermediate, I found myself on the weekends volunteering as an attendant with Life Flight Des Moines. The flight nurses taught me everything about critical care, compassion, teamwork. I owe a lot to the chief flight nurse there, Kathy O'Brien. After paramedic school, I took a chance and moved west to Las Vegas, Nevada, and worked at one of the great private ambulance services of all times, Mercy Ambulance. Then owner Bob Forbus was a great teacher and one of the founders of the American Ambulance Association. I worked my way up to the paramedic recruiter, was a field training officer, and some of the co-workers there at Mercy were some of the best paramedics I've ever worked with. It was a paramedic's dream job to run lights and sirens down the Las Vegas Strip and experience a variety of calls in an urban system that most people only read about. After a few years at private ambulance, 3 of my friends and myself were recruited to the Henderson Fire Department in Henderson, Nevada. They wanted to start a paramedic program. We wound up building a dynasty of solid medicine in a fire-based EMS organization. Proud to say that while I was there, the team was able to achieve not only the CAS accreditation, but the fire accreditation from the Centers for Public Safety Excellence under Chief Joe Hill. At that time, we were only one of 3 fire agencies in the country to attain both of those certifications. I worked my way up the ranks as a paramedic preceptor, an EMS captain, and then as a fire captain, before moving on to the EMS chief's position at North Las Vegas Fire. At the same time, I was phasing out over 20 years of teaching at the College of Southern Nevada. I'd started out as an adjunct in the EMS program and ended as a fire science coordinator. Leaving the Nevada system, I went to live in my dream community of Durango, Colorado. It wasn't long before I'd failed retirement and found myself as the fire chief of the Upper Pine River Fire Protection District in Bayfield, Colorado. And I'll have to say I'm truly blessed to be working amongst a group of exceptional firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics providing care in a really austere environment. It was by happenstance that I was leaving an EMS conference in the Midwest headed back to the airport. I shared a cab with then incoming NAEMT President Ken Bouvier. I'd written a column in Fire Chief magazine for over a decade on EMS. Ken was a pretty regular reader. He said he was getting ready to do some exciting things at NAEMT. Thought I should come along for the ride. He said you'd be a good fit on the safety committee. I was sold. But before coming back to NAEMT, I'd walked a mile in several other organizations' shoes. The International Association of Firefighters as a union member. The International Association of Fire Chiefs as a committee member. The National EMS Management Association as a board member. The National Association of EMS Educators on special projects. Took a brief stint in the consulting world with Jay and Fitch & Associates, working with Mike Ragone on special projects. I've been a National Fire Academy instructor since 1994, writing several of their courses and grading executive fire officer papers. But it's really NAEMT that I call home. It was an honor serving initially on the NAEMT Safety Committee and then being the chair of that committee, and then moving on to chair the Advocacy Committee and now the Political Action Committee. It has been an absolutely incredible experience to be NAEMT's representative to the National Academy of Sciences and the Institute of Medicine's Preparedness Committee, and now as the incoming president of NAEMT. This all brings me to the capstone of a long career. As the incoming president, this is what I would ask you to help me accomplish. First, this level of engagement in our work was defined for me by a few words from a great mentor, Jim Page, who said, "Decisions are made by those who show up." It leads me to the first project, the Lighthouse Mentoring Program, a vision that Jim had articulated just before passing. A small group of EMS leaders have struggled to make this happen. With the horsepower of NAEMT, I want to establish a formal mentoring program for those that have chosen to make EMS their career and become lifelong learners. We will make a select group of vetted mentors available to you to help you shepherd your career, develop your leadership skills, and enrich your life with their wisdom. The Lighthouse Project. Watch for it. Second, if you want reimbursement, rules, and recognition as an essential service to change, we have to show up. And I'm not talking about on calls, but in city councils, state legislatures, and ultimately in Congress. Not as beggars asking for more, but as elected officials in positions to make change. Many in our profession have a long history of selfless service. At NAEMT, I want to stand up a political academy to help you run a campaign, arrange your financing, and win. I hear the debate on the EMS degree. I myself have a master's degree in public administration from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and I encourage my employees to get their degrees and I provide tuition reimbursement. However, mandating is not the way. Incentivizing is. Many of you have heard me talk about a concept called the EMS GI Bill. Similar to the military, if you serve on an ambulance as an EMT for 3 years in any capacity, public, private, search and rescue, volunteer EMS, and you can prove it with either tax or employment records, you would get your accredited paramedic program paid for. A paramedic shouldn't be saddled with student debt, needing to work 3 jobs, compromising their health and safety to make ends meet. We have to fix reimbursement. If EMS workers are going to be paid on parity with law enforcement and firefighters, reimbursement has to be corrected. This requires a consensus building team and a unified front. NAEMT will stand up a permanent EMS finance committee. I've asked this to be chaired by our own Matt Zavatsky. Nobody knows it better, and nobody has more passion for it. Lastly, we need to take a serious look at our board structure to include the addition, potentially, of 2 international members. The champions of our programs in Latin America, Europe, and around the globe, we need to hear from more. NAEMT has global reach, and we're grateful for our training center partners and those who pioneered those relationships. Will Chaplot, Dave Page, Gustavo Flores, our executive director Pam Lane, and our publishing partners. We will take advantage of all the media options to ensure that you are informed about our programming, our education, and our advocacy. So I ask you, be part of this. Come along for the ride. Be one of those who show up. Thank you, and it's an honor to be your incoming president.
Thank you, Bruce. The NAEMT board will continue its great work in 2021 with your leadership. I now ask Secretary Troy Tuke, who also serves as the chair of NAEMT's Advocacy Committee, to present the 2020 Advocates of the Year.
Each year, NAEMT recognizes EMS practitioners who have excelled in grassroots advocacy that advances EMS and inspires others to take action. These great advocates are usually recognized during EMS on the Hill Day. Given the pandemic, we were not able to recognize these individuals last March. It is my distinct honor to recognize them now. The 2020 EMS Advocates of the Year are Daniel Owens from Texas, Aiden O'Connor from New York, and Brian Oftedal from California. Daniel Owens is a paramedic with Austin Travis County EMS, serves as NAEMT's Advocacy Coordinator for Texas, is a member of the Austin EMS Association Research Committee, and volunteers as the Executive Director for the Association of Texas EMS Professionals. When his state EMS association was in danger of folding, Daniel led efforts to rebuild the organization. He worked with state legislators and unified EMS support for a bill to grant paramedics college tuition exemptions, testified before the state Senate, and has visited over 50 legislative offices to build support for EMS legislation. Daniel has also been featured on the Fox TV show First Responders Live. Aiden O'Connor, a paramedic and flight paramedic, has served as NAEMT Advocacy Coordinator. He has attended EMS on the Hill Day several times, as well as advocacy events in his state. He uses social media and an email list to build support for EMS legislation in his state, and has spoken at state and national EMS conferences on the ABCs of change, advocacy before complaining, which gives advice on turning problems into solutions by way of advocacy. Aiden believes so deeply in the importance of advocacy that he ran for office. He served 3 years as a minority leader of the Greene County Legislature in Durham, New York. During his time in office, he served on the County Health Services, Resources, and Economic Development Committees. While in the legislature, he advocated for more funding for EMS and taught his colleagues hands-on CPR and how to use an AED. He also secured funds to place 27 public access defibrillators strategically throughout the county. Brian Oftedal is a fire captain for the City of Oakland and president of the board for the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District. As president of the board, he has worked to engage elected officials at the local, state, and federal levels. Specific initiatives include establishing a quarterly update with their House representative, implementing a policy requiring all board members to participate in engaging and educating residents and elected officials about events, needs, and district goals, and mentoring his colleagues on participating in advocacy. Brian created a partnership with organizations to add and register public access defibrillators, advocated for California state laws to increase access to peer support for first responders, and has initiated community events to promote healthy behaviors. Congratulations to NAEMT's 2020 Advocates of the Year.
Thank you, Troy, and congratulations to our 2020 Advocates of the Year. Each year, the NAEMT president has an opportunity to select individuals to receive Presidential Leadership Awards for their outstanding contributions to our association. This year, I would like to recognize 2 board members who have gone way above and beyond for NAEMT and for our members. It is my honor to present NAEMT Region 2 board member Susan Bailey with a Presidential Leadership Award. Susan is adeptly juggling several major responsibilities during this pandemic. As the director of the Louisiana Bureau of EMS, Susan has been serving as part of the pandemic command team for her state. As NAEMT's representative, she sits on the CAPC Board of Directors, where she was elected as board chair. In addition to her volunteer work for NAEMT and CAPC, she is also an active member of the National Association of State EMS Officials. Susan has been strongly advocating for our members in all of these roles. She has articulated the needs and challenges of EMS agencies and practitioners responding to the pandemic, particularly in rural areas that often lack the human and financial resources to support surges in coronavirus patients. She does not shy away from discussing difficult topics and addressing challenging situations. She meets challenges head-on in a direct, firm, but not aggressive manner. She has demonstrated her leadership skills at the national level during this very critical time for our nation and our profession. On behalf of all of our members, Susan, thank you for your service to our association, our members, and our nation.
Thank you. I am truly humbled to be receiving such a prestigious award. It is my honor to represent NAEMT and the EMS practitioners at local, state, and national events and functions. Once again, I am truly humbled and thank you for bestowing me with such an awesome award.
It's my pleasure to present NAEMT Region 1 board member Brian Nelson with a Presidential Leadership Award. Brian joined the board in January. Shortly after getting acclimated to his new role, the pandemic hit and the U.S. government declared a public health emergency. Our federal partner agencies established a pre-hospital task force comprised of representatives from federal agencies and national associations that until recently has been meeting twice daily to develop operational and clinical guidance to EMS agencies and practitioners for responding to suspected COVID-19 patients. Brian took on the role of NAEMT's representative to this task force and has served ably in this role for several months and countless meetings, right, Brian? On behalf of our members, Brian, thank you for your service to our association, our profession, and our patients.
I'd like to say thank you to the NAEMT for presenting me with this award. I'm honored and humbled to have received it. I'd also like to thank President Matt Zavadsky for giving me the opportunity to serve on the Healthcare Resiliency Task Force as part of the EMS pre-hospital work group. It was a privilege to serve as a non-federal partner on a federal task force working on guidance and best practices for EMS during the early stages of the pandemic. It's been my privilege to serve on the board of directors for the NAEMT, and I look forward to advancing our profession moving forward. Thank you so much.
Now, it gives me great pleasure to begin the presentation of the 2020 National EMS Awards of Excellence. This year, we received many excellent nominations, and the recipients selected truly represent outstanding examples of the very best of our profession. NAEMT board member Susan Bailey, recent Presidential Leadership Award recipient, will present this year's outstanding recipients.
It is a true privilege to present the individual recipients of the 2020 National EMS Awards of Excellence. Each of these recipients demonstrate the best of our profession and are truly an inspiration. Our first award is the 2020 NAEMT Nasco Paramedic of the Year Award, sponsored by Nasco. This year's very worthy recipient is Stephen Link from Wantagh, New York. Stephen is an EMS captain, paramedic, and 40-year member of the Wantagh Fire Department in New York. He had been a deputy chief for 34 years of the New York City Fire Department Bureau of EMS. Nominated by Joseph Pignataro on behalf of the department's awards committee, Stephen is noted for delivering exceptional patient care to his patients and utilizing the latest EMS protocols. He is a patient advocate and supports his patients and their families through stressful situations by providing them with the information they need to make decisions about their health care. Stephen leads 2 EMS squads and oversees training and supplies. He guides the new members and ensures continuing education opportunities for all personnel. Stephen was appointed to the department's COVID-19 task force for his experience in maintaining the supply chain, particularly for personnel protection, and his disaster management experience in resource coordination. Stephen was recognized by the New York State Department of Health for his leadership in EMS. State EMS Director Ryan Greenberg stated that the recognition was for professional performance invaluable to the EMS system and for setting a standard for others to emulate. Well done, Stephen, and congratulations.
I'm honored to be selected as Paramedic of the Year from the National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians. I'd also like to thank the Wantagh Fire Department for nominating me and the National Association of EMTs for selecting me over so many deserving paramedics.
It is now my pleasure to present the NAEMT Braun Industries EMT of the Year Award to Jonathan Thatcher of South Rim, Utah. Jonathan is an advanced EMT for Tooele Army Depot Fire Department in Utah and serves as the Tooele County EMS Council Chair. He also works part-time for the Mountain West Ambulance and serves as the Volunteer Assistant Fire Chief for Stockton Fire Department. Colleagues commented that Jonathan is a professional and is constantly learning, growing, teaching, and evolving. Through his leadership and great attitude, he continues to make EMS an amazing profession to be part of. Co-worker Jace Connor's nomination commends Johnny for being a leader in his community, caring for others, and being knowledgeable in his role. When providing patient care, he advocates for his patients. He is compassionate and calming to all around him. He trains regularly, works with others to promote the highest level of care, and he also participates in a program for children in need. Jonathan is an excellent example of what an EMT should be and sets a high standard, said Connors. Congratulations, Jonathan.
I would like to thank everyone that helped me get to where I'm at today. This is such a huge honor, and I'll continue to do everything I can.
It is a true honor to present the NAEMT Boundtree EMS Medical Director of the Year Award to Dr. Paul Pepe of Dallas, Texas. Dr. Pepe is Medical Director for numerous EMS agencies in Texas and Florida. He is also coordinator of the Metropolitan EMS Medical Directors Global Alliance, known throughout the EMS community as the Eagles. Dr. Pepe was nominated by dozens of esteemed colleagues for his tireless efforts over 4 decades in advocating for patients, advancing science in EMS, creating educational innovations, and also for consistently supporting every EMS practitioner that he has supervised or worked besides. Well known for his hundreds of groundbreaking research publications in critical care, cardiac arrest, and EMS system innovations, nominators also cited his unparalleled leadership role for EMS during the COVID-19 crisis. Rapidly ascertaining boots on the ground intel across the globe and then rapidly disseminating pivotal concrete knowledge to EMS leaders worldwide, he provided guidance and reassurance to colleagues responsible for the EMS response to tens of millions within their jurisdictions. Always a champion for EMS, Dr. Pepe was the founder of the National Association of EMS Physicians and then served as the first elected president from 1987 to 1990. In 2005, he was cited as the most accomplished emergency medical services physician of our generation when receiving his Lifetime Achievement Award from the American College of Emergency Physicians. Nominators emphasize Dr. Pepe continues to have an innate ability to create order out of chaos and to redirect us into a more pragmatic, productive focus. By guiding us to research better ways to save lives, improve operations, and advance the specialty of EMS, he has elevated our stature in the eyes of the scientific world, global leaders, and the public at large. Congratulations, Dr. Pepe.
Listen, this is amazing. Thank you very much for this award. In a lot of ways, I just feel like I was just doing my job. I was asked to come in and help out. The people who really deserve the award as Medical Directors of the Year, all the people out there in the front lines doing it on a day-to-day basis, and our EMS providers, first responders, et cetera. I particularly, though, want to thank the Metropolitan EMS Medical Directors Group. Their alliance has just been an amazing exchange of information, and they're the ones that really deserve the award this year for the actions they took that affect so many lives worldwide. So thank you so much, everyone, for this great honor.
I am now pleased to present the 2020 NAEMT Jones and Bartlett Learning EMS Educator of the Year Award to Scott DeBoer of Dyer, Indiana. Scott is a critical care transport nurse and the co-founder with his medic wife, Lisa, of Pediatrics Emergency Medical Solutions. He applies over 30 years of experience into his engaging seminars and hands-on skills labs, which have been presented in all 50 states and 7 countries. His nomination noted that he has taught well over 1,000 programs all over the world, written 9 EMS-related books, co-authored over 100 emergency journal articles, been the subject of multiple nightly news television pieces because of his unique hands-on skills labs for EMS, and teaches audiences up to the thousands. A colleague presenting with Scott commented that very few educators approach a single presentation with such a degree of enthusiasm and dedication. Another colleague wrote that Scott has the ultimate combination of intellect and educational background coupled with a unique presentation style that makes him stand head and shoulders above the rest. His work ethic and dedication to providing excellent education opportunities for EMS are superb. Scott likes to say that he doesn't like taking care of big people, and as such, helps medics and nurses around the world learn better ways to care for kids, and this has been his career focus and passion. Great job, Scott, and congratulations.
Hey, it's Scott. And in the last 30 years that I've got to play ER and transport nurse, I've had the pleasure of working with some simply amazing EMS professionals. But across the board, if they're honest, a fair percentage are scared to death kids, and even worse, really sick kids. So that's why receiving this award for being able to help take the terror out of tiny traumas is such an honor. So thank you to NAEMT, Jones and Bartlett Learning, to EMS World, and to all of you on the front lines. Thank you.
It is my distinct honor to present U.S. Air Force Senior Airman Colleen Mitchell of Land O'Lakes, Florida, with the NAEMT North American Rescue Military Medic of the Year Award. Senior Airman Mitchell has embodied all of the principles that this award represents. She faced deadly, chaotic circumstances with courage, compassion, and determination, all in the effort to save the lives of others. She conducted the first ever tactical combat casualty care course in her area of responsibility, teaching 8 classes and ensuring 66 U.S. Department of Defense and host nation personnel were educated on emergent life-saving medical procedures. During an attack earlier this year, she took control of the scene, quickly assessed and executed life-saving actions that cared for 2 severely wounded individuals, and she brought dignity and respect for the deceased. Her professionalism, proactiveness, and calm under pressure served her and those that she directed during the time of crisis. From the accounts of the lead operator At the time of the attack to the Surgeon General of the United States Air Force, Senior Airman Mitchell's actions demonstrated the best of what our emergency medical technicians are trained to do in the time of crisis. Senior Airman Mitchell has also been recognized for exceptional meritorious achievement. Her nominator, Group Commander Colonel Michael D. Fouch, wrote, "I am incredibly humbled by her performance under fire in the act of triage, treatment, care management, and direction of those far above her pay grade to stabilize the situation. During her deployment, and particularly on the day in question, she was the best medic that anyone could hope for. She is, without question, a true American hero." Congratulations, Senior Airman Mitchell. Thank you for your service to your comrades and to our nation.
Hello, my name is Senior Airman Colleen Mitchell, and I would like to thank the NAEMT North American Rescue for selecting me to be the 2020 Military Medic of the Year. I'm incredibly honored to be receiving such a prestigious award. It means a lot to me, and I could not have been a success without the amazing team that I deployed with. I hope to continue to make a positive impact in the United States Air Force and in the NAEMT. Thank you again.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2020 EMS World Expo. We are thrilled to have you here joining us virtually. My name is Hillary Gates, and I am the Senior Editorial and Program Director for EMS World. One of my greatest honors is to be able to bestow upon a very deserving EMS community a multitude of awards. The National EMS Awards of Excellence, brought to you by EMS World in partnership with NAEMT, would not be possible without the support of our generous sponsors. The 2020 Volunteer EMS Service of the Year Award, sponsored by EMS World, goes to the Sun City Center Emergency Squad in Sun City Center, Florida. Sun City Center is a senior community with approximately 30,000 residents. Its unique rescue organization, the Sun City Center Emergency Squad, consists mostly of retired residents with an average age of 72. It is also the last all-volunteer, all-free BLS ambulance service in Florida. More than 400 volunteers run an average of 5,000 calls per year, and they raise their annual budget through fund drives and donations. In the last 4 years, it has taken the lead in preparing the community for hurricane season and other disasters. The squad was the first in the state on FirstNet, the emergency communications network for first responders. And the Sun City Center Emergency Squad prides itself on community education efforts like Stop the Bleed, fall prevention, CPR training, and community health symposia. Well-deserved, Sun City Center Emergency Squad. Kudos on your accomplishment.
Good day. My name is Mike Bardell, and I am the Chief of the Sun City Center Emergency Squad. It is an honor to be selected for this prestigious award. In times that we find ourselves, sometimes you wonder, when will it ever end? Being recognized for this award at this time, you can see and feel that you have made a difference. On behalf of the 400 plus members of the Sun City Center Emergency Squad, we thank you and accept this award. Thank you. Goodbye.
The 2020 Dick Furno Career EMS Service of the Year Award, sponsored by Furno, goes to Onslow County EMS in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Onslow County EMS has grown over the last 3 years to become a state and national leader in EMS. Having a large contingent of young Marines makes Onslow County the state's youngest in median age, and subsequently makes many of their calls, 60% in fact, trauma related. OCEMS prides itself on injury prevention and bystander training like Stop the Bleed. In 2019, OCEMS began utilizing low titer whole blood. In 2017, their community paramedic program built an opioid response and treatment program that connects overdose patients to recovery services. They were even awarded an NIH pilot to evaluate the effectiveness of community paramedics administering Suboxone to patients in the field. OCEMS is also recognized yearly as an AHA Mission Lifeline Gold Plus system. Congratulations, Onslow County EMS, on your outstanding achievement.
Hello, I'm David Grovedahl, EMS Division Head at Onslow County EMS in Jacksonville, North Carolina. On behalf of the 113 EMTs and paramedics at Onslow County EMS, we are both humbled and grateful for being selected as the 2020 Dick Furneaux Career EMS System of the Year. It is definitely a privilege to receive this award. Thank you to EMS World and Furneaux for sponsoring.
Congratulations again to all of this year's National EMS Awards of Excellence recipients. You are all shining EMS stars in our profession. Thanks again to our sponsors for their support in recognizing those outstanding achievements and those who have made a difference for their patients and their communities. Our final award, the Rocco V. Mirando Lifetime Achievement Award, is NAEMT's most prestigious recognition of an individual's contribution to pre-hospital emergency medical care and the EMS profession. This award is granted to select individuals who, through their actions, leadership, and spirit, have demonstrated a lifetime commitment and dedication to the advancement of EMS. The National Registry of EMTs is a generous co-sponsor of this award. The 2020 Rocco V. Mirando Lifetime Achievement Award recipient is Dr. Doug Kupis.
Hi, I'm Heather Davis, Board Chair for National Registry of EMTs.
Hi, and I'm Matt Zavadsky, the President of the National Association of EMTs. And NAEMT and the National Registry are happy to present the 2020 Rocco V. Mirando Award to Dr. Doug Kupis.
For Dr. Kupis, like Rocco Mirando, there's no such thing as status quo. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And for both of these gentlemen, they are about using their gifts of wisdom, innovation, and caring about people to make EMS better for both patients and providers. Rocco was the first executive director for the National Registry and was instrumental in certifying the first set of EMTs and paramedics. He also was instrumental in establishing the recertification requirements and the national standard curriculums for both EMTs and paramedics. And one other really important mission that Rocco had was to establish the first professional organization, which is the NAEMT. And so that is one of the reasons that NAEMT and National Registry have such a close professional relationship. Our future is bright when we work together, and that's what this award is about.
Exactly, Heather. And 2020 is an important year for Dr. Kupis's career. It holds many milestones. This year marks 40 years in EMS after beginning his career with the Lower Kieske Ambulance as a volunteer at the age of 16. And this started after his Cub Scout troop got a tour of that service, and he and his brother were inspired to get involved. Dr. Kupis is an EMS physician's EMS physician. He's a flight physician, an EMS medical director for multiple EMS agencies, and he has been the Commonwealth EMS medical director for the state of Pennsylvania for the past 20 years. During this time, he developed the anonymous patient safety event reporting system that later became the NAEMT event system.
I don't know if you're keeping track there, but there's a 40 years in EMS, 30 years as a physician, and 20 years as the Pennsylvania medical director. So this is a really important year for him. So he has been and continues to be an avid researcher and passionate advocate for the EMS provider and for patient safety as well. Multiple publications, including NHTSA's white paper or monograph, in 2017 on the use of lights and sirens in EMS.
Dr. Kupis's other professional passions include the CARES Oversight and Advisory Board member. That's the Cardiac Arrest Registry and Reporting System. And he's a partner in the Heart Rescue Project. He does a ton of research in CPR quality and field termination. One of my early experiences with Dr. Kupis was I had the blessing to go speak at a conference in northern Pennsylvania. And I remember walking past one of the meeting rooms and seeing all of these EMTs and paramedics literally on the floor in the room with mannequins and AEDs and monitors, and they were practicing what Dr. Kupis literally was on the floor teaching them on effective and quality CPR, but also being able to break the news to family members about a potential termination of that resuscitation. So when I think back on it and I saw that scene, it was almost, Heather, like a biblical event, sort of seeing Dr. Kupis with all of the people around him just literally soaking up all of this information.
I can't imagine what that looked like, but it's such an important skill, and I know it's really important to him to teach providers how to do that. Dr. Kupis is a board member for NAEMSP. He's a member of NASEMSO's Medical Directors Council. He's a board member for Pennsylvania Trauma Systems Foundation and a member of ABEM's EMS Subspecialty Certification Board as well. Many involvement at the professional level.
And apparently you can count on Dr. Kupis to get things done. You know, when we were thinking about giving Dr. Kupis this award, we had to do a rather extensive background check, and we found out some very interesting things from various people from his past, which we can't really, decorum prevents us from doing that right now. But I did have the opportunity to speak with Dr. David Tan, who is the president of the National Association of EMS Physicians. And he said, you know, Dr. Kupis is just one of those guys who gets things done. And I know that if Dr. Kupis is leading something or if he's involved in it, he'll end up leading it and stuff just gets done. So I never worry about projects getting done when Dr. Kupis is assigned to the project. So for all the reasons that you heard Heather and I talk about, and probably the thousands that we don't have time to talk about now, we are thrilled to present Dr. Kupis with this year's Rocco V. Miranda Award. And we'll allow Dr. Kupis some moment here with us. Doug, go right ahead, sir.
Well, thank you, Matt, Heather, NAEMT, and the National Registry. I'm really overwhelmingly honored to have been selected for the Rocco Miranda Award. I reviewed the list of recipients with great humility, and I'm humbled to be considered among their ranks. My accomplishments are really all because of the people who mentored me in the field of EMS and the innovative agencies that have allowed me to share in their experiences. As you said, at the age of 16, I started as a volunteer with Lower Kiski Ambulance Service as an ambulance attendant in Leechburg, Pennsylvania. And there I found a second family among EMS providers. I learned from some of the first EMTs and paramedics in the state, and I learned from Dr. Fraley, the town physician who families often called to do a house call before he decided if they needed an ambulance. As a college student and paramedic, I worked at Citizens Ambulance Service in Indiana, Pennsylvania. This agency was decades ahead of the country in their EMD and their culture of safety. And it is with Citizens that I developed my passion for patient and provider safety. I thank all of my colleagues at Geisinger Health System who have supported EMS, and I thank the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Health and all the EMS providers in Pennsylvania. Applying science, teamwork, and quality improvement techniques has improved outcomes for our patients. We are at our best when every decision is focused on our patients, and I think that's what I have always tried to do. We're at a very exciting tipping point in EMS. Our country has a great need to integrate patient care at home with the traditional healthcare system. As we tip from traditional EMS reimbursement based on transport to a new reimbursement system that recognizes the value that we bring in patient assessment, care at home, telehealth, and others, EMS brings a unique skill and can be a key component of the broader healthcare system. True integration with the healthcare system will lead to better access for our patients and coordination of their care, and a bright future for EMS. After all, we never stop doing house calls. I want to thank all of the EMS professionals who have been partners, friends, leaders, followers, providers, and innovators with me as we try to improve our EMS systems. Also, I truly am honored to be one of thousands of EMS physicians who have made EMS their practice of medicine. Thank you very much for this award and for the friendships and for allowing me to help our patients through all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Kupis. I think it's very appropriate that you're there in front of one of your ambulances, and truly congratulations. Heather, we'll leave it for you for any closing comments.
Congratulations. We're honored to have you as the next recipient of the Rocco Miranda Award. Congratulations again.
Before we conclude the general membership meeting, I'd like to take a moment to recognize NAEMT's incredible staff. Pam and Lisa, along with all those who work tirelessly and often without enough credit to make things happen. Since the beginning of the pandemic, these selfless professionals have retasked most of their roles to be dedicated to the impact of the pandemic on the EMS profession and our members. NAEMT would not be able to accomplish the things that we are able to accomplish without your dedication, experience, expertise, and simply fantastic work. Thank you to the NAEMT staff. We are now at the conclusion of this year's general membership meeting, generously sponsored by Columbia Southern University and FirstNet, built by AT&T. Although I will miss seeing you at our traditional post-meeting reception, I want to thank you for joining us today. To all of our members and friends in EMS, thank you for your service, and please stay safe and healthy.